In this video, I'm going to show you step by step on how you can get started with Amazon FBA private label. I know as a beginner, it can get quite confusing and overwhelming. So to make sure you don't miss anything, I'm going to show you a general overview of the entire process and break down all the necessary steps from creating your seller account to finding products to sell, sourcing and shipping products from overseas, creating a listing in the Amazon Marketplace, and how to launch your new product. So I'm excited to dive right in, but hey, if this is our first time meeting, my name is Crescent, and my passion is sharing tips and strategies on how you can create a successful business on Amazon FBA private labeling. And if you enjoy videos like this, or especially if you've been around my channel, smash that like button or share this with a friend. You'd be doing me a huge favor and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Let's get started. All right, the first thing you need to do is create an Amazon seller account. And so a lot of people ask, do you need to have a business in order to start an account? And the answer is no. You can start selling just as yourself without a registered business. Now, there's two types of accounts on Amazon. You have the option for creating an individual account or a professional account. And what I recommend you do is to start with a professional account, and that costs $39.99 a month. And the key here is you can always change your business type in the future if you do decide to incorporate or register a business in your state. But Amazon will refund you the $39.99 a month seller account fee at the end of each month if you don't have anything in your account that you're selling. So all you got to do is at the end of each month, contact Seller Central and ask them for a refund, and they'll give you that money back. And the advantage here is that once you have a professional account, you have access to all the features and you can familiarize yourself with Seller Central. Now, if you sign up as an individual rather than a business, you can use your social security number, as Amazon's going to ask you for some information to verify your identity and for tax purposes. So if you register as a business, you're going to need an EIN number, and you can register for one online relatively easy on the irs.gov website. It's a very simple process, takes less than a day. Sign up with some basic information and they'll send you your new EIN number. Now, if you live outside the US, you can still sign up on the US marketplace and sell. There's just some restrictions in certain countries that you are not able to, and Amazon has a list of countries that it does support, and the ones it doesn't support is mostly like in Africa and stuff. So now additionally, when you sign up on Amazon, it's going to ask you for a name for your Amazon storefront. And the idea of the Amazon FBA private label business model is to put your own brand and logo on your products. And it's very important that you do this. So if you don't already have a business name or a brand or a logo, you need to come up with one. And it can be something as simple as your first name and last name, or just your name as the logo. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Now, there's a few extra requirements when you create your Amazon account. They do require that you have a US bank account and a credit card. Now, if you don't live in US and your bank isn't on the approved list with Amazon, you can use a service from Payoneer.com and use that as your funding source on your Amazon account. Okay, moving on to product research. Now, product research is the most important part of the entire process, and it is the most difficult and time consuming. And the reason is because if you don't find a good product, no matter how well you perform all the steps afterwards, your product isn't going to sell well. So it's very important that you take your time during product research and practice patience and diligence and making sure that the product meets all your specific criteria and targets so that you can have the best chances for success. Now, for product research, I recommend a tool that I use called Jungle Scout, and it helps you analyze the data at a glance and makes the product research a lot more efficient and easier to do. Without a tool, it makes the product research process so much more difficult and time consuming. Now, for those of you that don't know what Jungle Scout is, it's a web app that you install in your Chrome web browser. And for example, if we're looking up a rib rack, you can click the little icon over here and it'll pull up the data for all the listings in the search results. So at a glance, you can see what their price is at, their bestseller rank here, their sales for the last 30 days, revenue, and the number of reviews. Now, I have more detailed videos that go over the exact criteria that you should be aiming for, and you can go watch those videos if you would like more information. But other than meeting the criteria, you also want to make sure that the niche you're looking at isn't brand dominated, which means that you don't see more than 3 or 4 of the same seller in the top 10 or the first page. If you do, then they're most likely dominating the niche and people are more willing to buy from them than any other listing that's in there. And you also want to make sure the product isn't patented or trademarked. Now, if it's patented, that means no one else can legally manufacture and sell the product without their permission. Trademark means they're a major brand like Nike or Adidas or Batman, and you can't go make a product that has their name or logo on it. And it's very important that you look up this information ahead of time to make sure that you're not infringing on anybody's intellectual property, because the worst thing that could happen is that you get sued and you lose all of the money that you've invested into the product. Now, how do you find out if a product is patented or trademarked? Well, you have 2 options that you can do a search yourself, and that's on the USPTO.gov website. And that's the US Patent and Trademark website. You can also look on Google Patents, and you would do a search, for example, for rib rack, and you would look for any diagrams or descriptions that match what you're selling. And again, if it looks the same or describes what you're trying to sell, it's probably patented. I would avoid it. Now, another issue you want to be aware of is if the product is seasonal. So how do you find out if it's seasonal? Well, you have 2 options. You can go to a website called camel.com and just camel 3 times. And so what you want to do here is you want to grab the ASIN, the ASIN, of one of the listings in your niche and enter it in here. And we'll grab the ASIN from the URL, and it starts with a B0, and go back to camel and paste it here. And what you can do now is scroll down and go to the sales rank. And this will show you the BSR, or the bestseller rank, over the history of this listing. Okay, make sure it's on all. And you want to see here if it goes up and down every year on a cycle. And if it does, then it's most likely seasonal. You can see here over the course of 4 years, it's remained pretty steady. Now, you can also look on googletrends.com here, and I'll show an example of a product that is seasonal. For example, a pool float. And make sure you choose past 5 years. And you can see here, during the summer months, there's more search volume. So it's definitely a seasonal product. Now, another issue you want to be aware of too, Amazon has a list of products that you cannot sell. So what you can do is just look up restricted products on Amazon, and it'll pull up this page. And if you scroll down to the bottom, it'll show you the list of products that you absolutely cannot sell. So stuff like alcohol, weapons and firearms, tobacco-related products and stuff like that. So make sure, even though you might see something in Amazon, it just means they haven't been caught yet. Okay, so don't sell products that are on this restricted list. There's also gated categories, which you should be aware of. Now, gated categories just means that you need prior approval before you can sell in that category. It doesn't mean that you can't sell in it. Now, some categories are really easy to apply for. You can just do it online. It only takes a couple minutes. And other ones will require some additional documentation depending on the category. Now, a bonus tip here is a lot of people, while they're doing product research, once they identify a product or a niche, they're simply selling carbon copies of the product and they're not differentiating it. Now, the key point to being successful is making sure that you differentiate and add value. Now, what I mean by that is making sure that your product is better than the competition's. Now, how do you add value to make it better? Well, you can bundle it with something, or what you can do is fix an existing issue. So if there's a common problem with the existing products, and you can find out what those problems are by reading the reviews and fix the problem with your product. And by adding value, you can actually increase the price and increase your profit margins, and people will actually pay for better quality. You should never try to compete on price, because if you try to compete on price, it would always be a race to the bottom, to the point where the entire niche doesn't make any money. So always go premium so you can charge more by adding value. So now that you've found a product, how do you find a supplier to manufacture your product? Well, your best option is to actually look overseas to China, because the manufacturing and labor costs are a lot cheaper over there. Now, there's a few websites you can use. There's DHgate, AliExpress, and the most popular, Alibaba.com. Now, Alibaba is a resource for thousands of manufacturers to showcase the products that they have. So what you want to do is go into the search bar and type in the product that you're trying to manufacture, for example, a rib rack. And you can go through here and find the style that you're trying to do and contact the manufacturers and negotiate with them for the best price. Now, to make sure you're dealing with the most honest and reliable suppliers, you want to come here and choose Trade Assurance and Gold Supplier. Now, what trade assurance means is that the supplier is willing to use Alibaba's secure payment method, which protects both the buyer and the seller against any potential issues that may come up during the transaction, so you can get your money back if something was to happen. Now, while you're looking at Alibaba, you're going to look for the style of the product that you're trying to manufacture. And you can see here that they list the price range that you can expect to pay. And you can also see that almost all of these suppliers list what is called an MOQ, which is minimum order quantity. And so, for example, this supplier requires a minimum of 100 pieces. Now, when you contact suppliers, you want to make sure you sound professional and not just contact them without a plan. Now, I have a contact template which you can download for free. It'll be in the description. Make sure you use the contact template because these suppliers get contacted dozens and dozens of times every day. And so they're going to quickly filter out the emails that they feel that aren't serious. Now, sometimes, depending on the supplier and what you're trying to do to the product, you might want to order a sample. Now, the sample can get pretty expensive. You're looking at around probably $80 to $150 for one sample. But keep in mind, if you do order from that supplier, they'll usually refund you the cost of that sample. Now, if it's a product that isn't really complicated or the material isn't anything special, you might not need a sample. And especially if the supplier is a gold supplier and they've been around for 10, 12 years and they've done a lot of business, you can probably be pretty confident that the quality is pretty good. All right, so now that you've contacted some suppliers and you have some quotes for the prices, you want to make sure that you can make money selling this product. You need to make sure that the profit and the fees are within your target criteria as well. So what you can do is you can jump on to the Amazon FBA Calculator, which you can just type in FBA Calculator into Google, and I'll leave a link in the description as well, which will pull up this calculator. All right, so what you want to do is go back and grab the AISIN of one of these rib racks. So for example, let's do this one. And we'll grab the AISIN from the URL. And again, it starts with B0. It always does. Go back to the calculator and we'll paste it here. And you can see that it grabbed the details of that product, such as the weight and the size. Now it's important because the FBA fees are calculated based on the size and the weight. So now let's scroll down and you want to fill in the item price, which is the price you plan to sell the product at. So let's just say we're going to sell it at $15.99. And the ship to Amazon field, you're going to leave blank because the quote that you got back from the supplier, if you break it down, is already going to include the shipping price with the unit price. So we're going to skip right down to here and let's just assume that the cost per unit from your supplier, which includes shipping, is $4. Okay? And we hit calculate. And now you can see that it's broken down into all the fees you have to pay and your profit margin. So you can see here that your selling fees here, which is the referral fee, and you can see that it's $2.40. And that's usually 15% of your sell price or $1, whichever is higher. And then your Amazon fulfillment fee, which is here, is based on the size and the weight of your product. And that usually doesn't change. So this is a fixed cost, which is $5.23. And that includes your monthly storage fee. Okay. So if you add all this together and subtract your costs, you can see that your profit is $4.36. Okay. And now you can kind of play around with the price and go, well, you know, if I can sell it for $19.99, I hit calculate, you can see my net profit goes up to $7.76. All right, now it's important here that you figure out all of these numbers, especially your profit, before you move ahead. People get all caught up in the product research that they forget that the whole point of doing this business is to make money. So you want to make sure that you're making enough money that it's worth your while. Now, the next thing you want to do is create a listing. But before you do that, you're going to need a UPC barcode. Now you can buy a UPC barcode directly from GS1, or you can buy one from a third-party reseller such as Nationwide Barcode or barcodesmania.com. Now I don't suggest that you buy them from places like eBay because those bulk UPC barcodes that you're getting, they're not necessarily GS1. They could be fake or they could be already used barcodes. Now the barcodes is a huge area of confusion for beginners because there's actually two that you need to familiarize yourself with. There's the UPC barcode and there's the Amazon FNSKU barcode. Okay, now in order to get the Amazon FNSKU barcode, you need a UPC barcode. So when you create your new listing, there's going to be a field called the product ID field where you're going to enter the UPC barcode that you purchased. And once you do that, Amazon will generate the FNSKU that you need that goes on to every single one of your units. Okay, and I have videos on this specific topic to help you if you're still confused or need more information on it. Now, the FNSKU label is the same. It's going to be the same label that goes on every single unit that you're selling. So if I ordered 500 units from my supplier, I'll need 500 labels. And that same label is what's going to be put on every single one of those units. Now, once you've got that taken care of, the most important part of your listing is your photos and your title. Now, to do photos, I always recommend having professional photos taken by a professional photographer on like Fiverr.com. And there's a lot of really good ones. Just go through their resume or portfolio to see if their style is the type of photography that you're looking for. And you can hire them for anywhere from $75 and up to $250 or more. Now those photos, you really get what you pay for here. So don't go cheap because photos are the most important part of your listing. It's what attracts buyers' eyes the most. So always get really good professional photos done for your product. Now in the meantime, if you don't have professional photos, you can always use photos supplied by your manufacturer. So ask them, do you have stock photos that I can use? And just make sure that they're not copied photos from Google that they just went and downloaded, because you can get in trouble by using other people's copyrighted material and you can have your listing removed or worse, sued by using someone else's photos. So make sure the photos that your supplier gives you is indeed their own and they didn't just Google someone else's photos and give them to you. Now, if you're using stock photos from your supplier, make sure that that's just temporary as a placeholder in your listing so that while you're creating your listing, you have plans to have professional photos taken that you're going to replace them with in the near future. Now, for your title, you want to make sure that you use a lot of your main keywords that describe your product and niche. So how do you know what keywords to use? Now, you should do keyword research before you start creating your title and description and bullet points for your listing. So when you go and do keyword research, you're going to have a list of all the keywords ranked by search popularity. The more popular and relevant those keywords are, you should put them closer to the front of your listing title. So for example, if I'm doing a rib rack, I should start the title with rib rack and then follow it up by other highly relevant keywords such as rib rack for barbecue grilling non-stick. But more importantly, you want to make sure that the title is readable to a person, because a person's going to be reading it, and if all you did was stuff it with keywords so it's not a sentence that's understandable, it can be confusing to the person that's seeing your listing. Now, once you've done that, you want to make sure you take the remaining keywords list and narrow it down to 250 characters of the most relevant keywords that are remaining, and put that into your back-end keywords list. And a bonus tip here is when you create a new product, the default setting is the product will be fulfilled by merchant, which means you will be doing the shipping for the product. So you want to make sure that you change that to fulfill by Amazon. Otherwise, you won't have access to print those FNSKU item labels, and Amazon isn't actually going to be fulfilling it and expecting a shipment of your products into the Amazon warehouse. So now onto shipping. Once your product is manufactured, you need to get it shipped to Amazon. And in order to do that, you need to create a shipping plan in Seller Central. Now, in order to complete your shipping plan, you need some information from your supplier, such as how many units they put in each carton, how many cartons are there, and the size and weight of each carton. It's also important that you choose individually packed and not case packed as the shipping option, in the case your manufacturer put different amount of units in each carton. If you chose case packed, you won't have this option and you won't be able to complete the shipping plan. Now for the actual type of shipping, you have two options, air versus sea. And the quickest one is obviously by air, but it costs the most. You also want to make sure you choose DDP shipping, and that means door to door, and the duties are paid. And that's the easiest method for you because you don't have to do any of the shipping arrangements, fill out any forms, and pay any fees other than just paying your supplier, and they'll handle all the arrangements and fees for you. Okay, so now once your product has arrived at Amazon and you have products up for sale, you're ready to do a product launch. Now it's very important at this stage that you launch correctly, because what you want to do during a product launch is to get your listing ranked onto the first page. 70% of all online sales happen on the first page, and that's where you're going to generate most of your sales. Ranking is based primarily on your daily sales velocity. So that's why it's important that you match or beat the daily sales velocity of the top sellers on the first page. So if they're all selling, for example, 10 units per day, you need to move 10 units per day as well so you can get your listing ranked up there too. And you can do that sales velocity by doing an aggressive PPC launch and doing giveaways. Now before you start doing pay-per-click, you want to make sure your listing has some social proof. And you get social proof by getting some reviews. So you don't want to start PPC with 0 reviews because people generally don't want to be guinea pigs to test out new products. So you always want to make sure you have 4 or 5 reviews before you start your pay-per-click launch. And for the giveaways, it really doesn't matter because the price is going to be so cheap, usually only a couple dollars. People are willing to just spend a couple dollars to get a product. Now, an option to get your initial reviews is to use the Amazon Early Reviewer Program, where Amazon will help you get your first 5 reviews. Now, you want to continue your PPC and giveaways until you reach the first page, which can take a few days or a couple weeks, depending on the level of competition. All right, so once you reach the first page, your organic sales is going to start picking up. And so at this point, you're not done. You want to make sure you continue to optimize your listing. So you want to look at your competitors and make sure your listing is still the best as far as your photos, and your listing title is still optimized for the keywords. And you want to also make sure you're continually optimizing your pay-per-click campaign. And that means removing keywords that are not profitable and scaling on the keywords that are profitable. And once you've got the first product under your belt, you can then move on to product research again to find your second product. It's really that simple. All right, so there you go. That's a general overview of all the necessary steps if you're a beginner starting from scratch. Let me know in the comments if that was helpful. Now, if you're looking for more in-depth and detailed videos on each topic, I do have more content on my channel. Feel free to browse through them. If you found value in this video, you know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.